The state of Ohio adds 3 more ailments to the list of qualifying conditions for medical cannabis, and Republicans have introduced a new bill that would legalize cannabis on the federal level. This is Lo with Veriheal, keeping you up to date with the latest in cannabis news. Ohio's State Medical Board recently approved 3 additional illnesses to the list of qualifying conditions for its medical cannabis program. Arthritis, chronic migraines, and complex regional pain syndrome are now eligible for cannabis treatment. Every year, the board accepts new submissions to add more qualifying conditions, which can include evidence that cannabis can help treat, as well as supporting letters from doctors. This year, there were over 30 of these petitions, but the board ultimately chose to approve 3. The board also advanced Huntington's disease, spasticity, or persistent muscle spasms, and terminal illness to be considered for approval as well. Next in news, the Mississippi Court of Appeals has chosen to uphold a life sentence for Mr. Alan Russell, who was found guilty of possessing more than 30 grams of cannabis. Russell's appeal stated that his life sentence for cannabis possession is cruel and unusual punishment and grossly disproportionate. In Mississippi, possession between 30 to 250 grams carries a punishment of up to 3 years in prison, a significant fine, or even both. However, the courts ultimately disagreed after upholding the state's habitual offender law. In the state of Mississippi, a life sentence without parole can be given if the person has served at least 1 year in prison for 2 separate felonies, one of which must be considered a violent offense. Unfortunately, Mr. Russell had been convicted for 2 prior felonies that included burglary, which is a violent offense in Mississippi, and for unlawful possession of a firearm. In the light of this news, we encourage all consumers to be in lawful possession of cannabis to avoid a similar situation. And lastly, Republican Congress members have introduced a new bill that would remove cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act. Unfortunately, this bill does not include social equity measures that could help communities that have been harmed by the war on drugs. But the Common Sense Cannabis Reform for Veterans, Small Businesses, and Medical Professionals Act will detail banking protections for cannabis companies, expand access for veterans by allowing Veterans Affairs to recommend cannabis, and widen the ability for research. And within 1 year of enactment, the FDA will be required to introduce federal cannabis regulations. A decade ago, no one would have even fathomed something like this happening. So stay tuned as we watch this pan out. So go ahead and like this video and give us a follow at Veriheal to stay up to date with the latest in cannabis news. Thanks for watching.